A very good evening to all of you. Today is the fourth day of FDP on research methodology and scientific components for an empirical study in research. And today topic is questionnaire and its framework. And our speaker is Dr. Kankipati Srinivasa Rao. Dr. Kankipati Srinivas Rao is working as an associate professor in the Department of Commerce in Premier Institute of Vivek Vardhani College of Arts, Commerce, Science and Postgraduate Studies, Osmania University, Hyderabad. And he has obtained his PhD from HNB Garhwal University, Srinagar, Uttarakhand, from the Department of Commerce. And the title of the PhD of Impact of Information Technology in Banking Services, a case study of Punjab National Bank. He has got 25 years of outstanding research and teaching experience in various levels. He has published 70 research papers in various national, international, peer-reviewed, high-impact, Scopus and UGC Care journals. Dr. Rao presented 45 research papers in several national, international conferences. He delivered many keynote addresses, performed as chairman technical session, resource person, and as a chief guest delivered inaugural address for several internationally reputed conferences. Dr. Rao authored 4 textbooks. He is a research guide for PhD scholars in several universities in the country, including Osmania University, Hyderabad. Under his guidance, 3 PhD awarded. Dr. Rao has submitted 2 research projects, minor or major, to the University Grant Commission, New Delhi. Dr. Rao received 4 Best Teacher Award for his excellence in academic record, which includes Telangana State Government Best Teacher Awardee 2016. He is a trained program officer from GOI for National Service Scheme NSS and conducted many programs in slums. Dr. Rao is a member editorial board for 25 national and international journals for various countries. He is a member board of uh, studies commerce and at Osmania University. He is a member in various professional bodies. He is a resource person for various universities such as IGNOU, Ambedkar Open University, Annamalai University for management students. He is associated with examination, evaluation, and assessment activities in various levels of academics in universities, autonomous and affiliated colleges. So, Dr. Rao, a warm welcome to you in the FDP, and over to you, sir.
Thank you, madam. Thank you once again. This is the second session for me
Yes,
in this FDP,
yes,
and I'm really thankful for the Jensen educational institutions, and this is the second session, as I mentioned, on the topic of questionnaire and its framework. It's really a great opportunity. I feel it's a great opportunity to interact all of you. All are the research scholars and faculty members, and all our learned members are there in this participation group. So I'm really delighted this evening to be associated with you all. Now, just I will share the screen. Just bear with me for a few seconds so that we'll go into the topic. Is the screen visible, please?
yes, sir.
Is it visible, please?
Yes, sir, it is visible.
Yeah. Now, the topic is, you're all aware, the questionnaire and its framework. You know that the questionnaire is a very important, the component in the research, in the process of conduct of any research. The questionnaire is very important component, and you are supposed to frame the questionnaire in a systematic manner so that you can conduct the research in an effective manner, and the inferences, whatever the analytical part of methodology, these all will depend upon the effective preparation of the questionnaire. So that is why we'll just go into the details of the questionnaire and all that we have. So I have so many slides with me to discuss with you all. So one by one, we'll discuss all the important aspects which are involved in the questionnaire framework. Let us see one by one. Now, presentation outline. These are the important aspects that I would like to cover in this questionnaire framework and all that. Now, what is questionnaire and schedule? Questionnaire versus schedule and importance of questionnaire. Operational concepts in questionnaire. Variables in questionnaire framework. And you have the sources to search the questionnaire, parameters, variables and all that. And the guidelines in preparation of the questionnaire, characteristics of the questionnaire, and also you have the factors affecting questionnaire and elements of questionnaire. And you have the good questionnaire means how it has to be framed, and then preliminary information to construct a questionnaire. What are the preliminary basic information that we are supposed to take into consideration before you frame the questionnaire and all that? Preliminary information. And the questionnaire design, what are the considerations when you are designing the questionnaire? What are the considerations that are to be taken into consideration, that are to be taken into mind? And next you have the developing questionnaire types and construction, different types of questionnaires, and the how you are supposed to construct the questionnaire, that we'll discuss, and the sequence, logical arrangement of the questions in the questionnaire we'll discuss. And finally, after preparing the questionnaire, you are supposed to review the questionnaire once, the draft, whatever draft that you have prepared. So that has to be finally before you go into the field to get the information from the beneficiaries. You are supposed to review it, and then if it is according to the guidelines of the your area of interest of the research that you are going to investigate, that you have to review once again the questionnaire draft if it is okay, and according to the norms, if it is prepared, then you can go for collection of the data from the respondents. That is one thing. And finally, you have to, if it is the draft is approved, if it is satisfied by you, and then you are supposed to administer this questionnaire to collect information from the respondents. So that is the final. And you have the mistakes commonly. Generally, what are the mistakes when you prepare the questionnaire? What mistakes generally will be there, and how to avoid those mistakes and all that. So this is, the structure of the questionnaire that I'm going to discuss before you all. Now, let us come to the point of the questionnaire. What is the questionnaire when you talk about? Questionnaire is, it is invented by Francis Galton, a British anthropologist in the late 1800th century, 1800s. So that in those days, it was, the questionnaire, the idea has framed and it has come because the information is very important. Opinions are very important. That taken into consideration in those days only. Sir Francis Galton is the person who is originated this questionnaire and all that from him. And the questionnaire, is a now when you're coming into the various aspects of questionnaire, then questionnaire, this set of printed written questions. We all prepare the questionnaire, and it is in the form of printed. Once you draft prepare, that the draft will be finalized. If it is approved, if it is okay or satisfied by you, then it will be printed to get the answers, to collect the opinions from the respondents. So devised for the purpose of the surveys, statistical studies, the questionnaire is very, very important. It's a tool, The questionnaire is a tool to collect information, opinions from the respondents, from whom you want to collect the information. What are your target group? Because target group is nothing but if you if you select a sample, that sample, from that sample, say for example, whether it is 500 or 600 or 450 or 300, whatever it is, whatever sample that you have chosen, from that sample you are supposed to collect the ideas, the opinions, or the responses you are supposed to collect from them. For that purpose, this questionnaire has to be prepared, and in further stages, once it is prepared and collected the information, then you are supposed to analyze with suitable statistical tools and all that. That part will come in the later slides. Now, the questionnaire is an instrument consisting of the questions for collection of data. That's what I just submitted before you. Pertaining the demographic, so this questionnaire consists of what? Demographic characteristics such as race, age, socio-economic status of the respondents, and also preferences, attitudes, their opinions. They're all are the variable issues, various issues which are to be included in the questionnaire. So age is important, race is important, demographic characteristics, their income levels, and their the educational status. These all will come under demographic information. After that, the main problem, whatever main problem that you have chosen to carry out for investigation, on the basis of that, some questions are to be designed. Again, once you collect the opinions of the demographic information from the respondents, then you are supposed to go for the questions you are supposed to pose before the respondents from the actual question that you have, actual investigation that you are going to conduct investigation for a particular problem. On that, you can collect the information. You can frame the questions on the basis of the problem that you have chosen. So that is one thing. And the questionnaire with the standard questions of eliciting information. The purpose of the questionnaire is to elicit the information from the information or opinions from the respondent. That's what I told you. So beliefs, opinions, feelings, experiences, perceptions, these are all, you are supposed to get as an investigator, as a researcher. You are supposed to collect this information from the beneficiaries, or from the respondents, or from the people, whoever is encountering the problem. From them, you are supposed to collect all this information. That is one thing. Next, you have, in continuation to the previous one, it is powerful evaluation to design and to generate for analyzing by using statistical tools. So once you collect the information, that has to be, as I've told you, just mentioned a few seconds back, what I told you, analysis by using the statistical tools. You cannot use the statistical tools according to your will and wish, because on the basis of data, nature of the data, then what type of the statistical tool is relevant or suitable. That type of the suitable, relevant the statistical tool has to be applied for analyzing the purposes of the data and all that. So that will come after the questionnaire and all that. Once the questionnaire information, opinions collected, then the analyzation part will take later with the help of statistical tools and all that. And the questionnaire should be clear and concise in presentation of wording and all that. This is very, very important. Questionnaire should be in a position of understandable to the beneficiaries, especially from whom I told you, the targeted people. Who are the targeted people? You have to, as an investigator, you have to keep in that mind. You are supposed to keep that point in the mind, and accordingly you have to prepare the draft, prepare the questionnaire. So that questionnaire, what I'm telling you is that questionnaire should be concise, brief, and understandable. The simple language are to be used. Simple language has to be used. Then only the beneficiaries or the respondents or the targeted people or whoever is associated with the problem encountering, they can easily understand, and finally they will come out with their correct opinions. We require the correct opinions, not other opinions of the beneficiaries. The beneficiaries' opinions are related to our topic, to your topic, to the investigator's topic. What is the investigator topic? What is the investigator is identified the problem? On the basis of that, you are supposed to extract the correct and relevant information from the beneficiary. That is very important. So in such a manner, you are supposed to prepare the questionnaire. That's what I'm telling. So that means it is concise, and it should not be more lengthy and all that. It should be concise, and it should be very brief and all that, and it should be understandable. Very important point is the words that you are using in the questionnaire while framing the questions, it should be very understandable. That is very, very important. And the questionnaire should have a clear, concise, and presentation of word that I just spoke. Now, it may be structured and unstructured, and then simple and easy to understand usage of language. Language is very important. One should understand the questions and all that. There should not be ambiguity in the language that they are using to frame while framing the questions and all that. Avoid confusion and clarity to prevail. There should not be any confusion, and clarity must be given. Once the question is going through by beneficiary, immediately he should be in a position to give the answer in such that to relevant answer. In such a manner, you are supposed to prepare the questions so that you will get the correct information. Once you get the correct information, please listen. Once you get the correct information as an investigator from the beneficiary, then it will be easy for you. It is easy for you to analyze by using the suitable statistical tools. So once you analyze appropriately, if the data is correct and the information opinions are correct, then the data is correct, then it will be analyzed, it can be analyzed, and you can give correct, the analysis part will come out correctly. So that is why what is important means understandable. It should be understood. The language should be understandable. Where confusion, clarity should not be, clarity must be prevailed. That is one thing. Avoid unclear words. There's no ambiguity, no unclear words or high vocabulary should not be used. That is very, very important. And you have the next important area is questionnaire versus schedule. Here the people are in confusion. What is questionnaire, what is schedule? So the difference that the investigator, the research scholars also, I think, in the participation in the among the participants, I think they are there, many are there. So please, for the faculty, there is no problem because they're already involved in research, and the research, whoever is doing the PhD, they will be in confusion. What is questionnaire and what is the schedule? What is the difference between these two? It is very simple. Schedule is, but in both either schedule and questionnaire, the set of questions are same. There is no difference at all. But the only thing is, under the schedule, the questions will be administered directly by the investigator. Means investigator will approach the beneficiary or respondent and collect the information. So that is about the schedule. And in the case of questionnaire is not like that. Questionnaire is the investigator or the researcher will not approach directly to the respondents. They will the investigator will mail it, the questionnaire, or will by courier or in some electronic equipment that were through internet mailing and all that can be sent, and then they will get the responses in turn. The responses will also be sent by the respondents to the investigator by mail only. So this is the difference between the questionnaire and schedule. So both, but the thing is here, what you have to understand is in schedule and in the questionnaire, the set of questions are same, one and the same. There is no difference at all. The only thing is the person, the investigator, going directly to the beneficiary or respondent, or sending the questionnaire sending through mail. So this is only the difference. So under schedule method, directly he will approach the beneficiary. Under questionnaire method, the questionnaire will be sent through mail and get the opinions from the investigator, from the respondents. So that is the difference between these two. Next, you have importance of questionnaire and all that. To know the characteristics of the data. So the questionnaire is, for what is the importance, what is the significance of the questionnaire is, the investigator should know what are the characteristics of the data. Once the data is collected, then the data having different types of the characteristics. So you are supposed to, the investigator is supposed to divide it into different groups, to different the sets. Say for example, I mentioned in the previous slide, what is that? Demographic characteristic, all demographic characteristics should be grouped, and all the other say for example problem related questions should be grouped like that, right? Like for that purpose, the data, once you collect, the nature of the data can be easily identified by the investigator. That is only that is one of the important aspect of the questionnaire. To know the opinions, attitudes, beliefs, nature, habits. These are all the things we will come to know from the beneficiaries once we get the information or opinions from the respondents. To to make the policy decision. Another significance is what is the purpose of the administering the questionnaire to the respondents. All the point is that we have to collect the information from the respondents for making policy decisions. That is very important. Ultimately, when we receive the information or opinions from the respondents, so all those responses will be grouped and analyzed, and will come to conclusion what is the policy implication, what is the policy decision that we have to take for implementing to come out of the problem that is prevailed. For that purpose, that is the significance of designing the questionnaire and all that. That should be kept in mind by the investigator. That is very important. On the basis of that, the questionnaire has to be framed. That is the significance. Policy decisions offer appropriate scientific solutions. Research is all about giving solutions, offering solutions for the prevalent problem in the society. There are many problems, as I mentioned in the previous session. So take one of the problems as investigator. We cannot address all the problems, and we cannot give solutions at a time for all the problems. And so that is why when you take a particular problem, for what purpose? To give a scientific solutions. So the scientific solution you can give only after collecting correct opinions from the respondents, and that opinions suitable statistical tools you have to use for analyzation, and then only inferences are the findings that you will come out with the findings that from those findings you can give appropriate solutions. That is very important. And the end of the day, at the end of the report, you are supposed to mention it for implementing in the process of implementing and all that by the authorities. So in that way, you have to keep in mind, and you have to go accordingly for investigation and all that, and preparing the questionnaire to achieve growth and development. This is very, very important. You're all working for investigation for growth and development. Once your problem is out, once you give a way out for a problem, then automatically what happens? The growth and development takes place naturally. So if there is no problem, there is no question of the reducing the problem. When the problem is solved, then automatically what happens? The growth and development will take place. That is very common. And data collection, quantitative means a questionnaire and schedule. Both you can use it under quantitative. Under quantitative, you can collect the information from the first-hand information from the respondents. Under qualitative, you can descriptive observations by interview, case study methods. These are all has to be included in the qualitative. This is this is also first hand only, but the way that you investigate is different. With observations, interview method, and case study methods will be adopted. And next you have the operational concepts of the questionnaire. Variables. What are the operational concepts of the questionnaire? Means in a particular questionnaire, operational concepts, what operational concepts should be included. So variables are to be carefully identified. So that's what I told in the previous session also. I have mentioned you that one second. I have mentioned in the previous session also. I have mentioned that what I mentioned is you have to identify a particular the key points, keywords. You have to identify these keywords are very important for conducting a study in depth. So that the variables also nothing but the keyword. From keywords only you have to search the variables, and whatever the suitable variables those are important for your investigation that you are supposed to, on the basis of your nature of the study, you have to identify the variables, and you have to incorporate the questionnaire in the form of questions. Next, read a lot of at least 30-40 research papers. Minimum I am talking about. There is no end for this. You can, if you read review of literatures, as many as you can, then you can acquire more amount of knowledge on that particular issue. That's what I told you in the previous session also with regard to review of literature. There's no hard and fast rule how many we have to go through the review of literature. You can, it is your to get a clear idea in your mind. If you want to get a clear idea and a broad perspective, whatever number of the review of literature that you want to study, to get a complete comprehensive idea on the problem, those many review of literatures you can go through it, so that you will have good knowledge on that, and then it will be easy. Further process will become very easy to investigate or to conduct the research process. Next, you have select definition for variables and go through. So once you select the variables that are going to use in the questionnaire, those variables first you have to select, and you have to give the definitions of the variables that are going to use in the questionnaire. Because if you don't define the variables that you are using in the questionnaire, and the beneficiary respondents cannot understand it. So you have to define it first. As an investigator, we should know what is the definition of that particular those particular the variables meaning and all that, and the significance and all that. You should know first of all. You should be in a position to give clarity. If somebody is asking you, the beneficiary or the respondent ask you, when you approach them, you are supposed to give the clarification. That is very, very important. Characteristics, the study to be known. The characteristics of the study is very important for selecting the variables and all that. Measurement of variables to be known, or measurable factors. This is also very important. These are all should be taken into consideration for framing the questionnaire. Types of study: unidimensional, multidimensional measurement, a review of literature for finding out variables. These things will be discussed in the next slides also. So this is one aspect. Next, variable in questionnaire framework. Variables in questionnaire framework. In continuation to the previous slide, it is important to know the key variables of independent and dependent. There are two types of independent variables, dependent variables. For example, key variables describes the topic under the investigation. Example I have given you. You can just see on the watch on the screen. Government schemes and impact. For example, if the government of state government, central government, or respective state government nowadays implementing, there are so many public to the general public. So impact is dependent, because when government is implementing the scheme, then only the impact can be identified. So our impact can be measured. So that is why both are dependent is linked with the independent variable. So here the independent variable is scheme, and the dependent variable is impact. So that is the important point. Next, structure variables describe the sample study. Education, for example, under this examples for your better understanding: education, age, gender, profession. These are all can be given as an examples. To construct an effective questionnaire, for effective questionnaire, if you want to construct, all these above points should be taken, should be kept in mind. And researchers should go through the concepts of dependent, independent variables identified. So that is why I told you already in the previous few seconds back. Once you identify the variables, independent variables and dependent variables, once you identify, then you have to go through the variables and the depth of the variables, understand. The investigator should understand clearly. Then only he can frame the questionnaire effectively, right? So that is one thing. Researchers should go through literature available on the variables identified. So that's what I told you in the review of literature also. I told you keywords, the variables are very important. Once you identify the variables for your topic, then on the variables, in-depth knowledge is very important, because you are going to investigate those variables. On the basis of those variables, so the topic of the problem or the area of interest of your problem, you are going to investigate. So that is why what is important, you have to identify the variables, and you have to go through the literature review which is related to those the variables. That is most important to have a comprehensive idea. Next, you have carefully to observe the relationship of variables forming the questionnaire. The relationship, what is the relationship between the variables? You have to understand. Then only you can, the questionnaire formation will become very easy. So the relationship of variables, the first of all, investigator, as an investigator, we should know while framing the questionnaire and all that. That is one important aspect. And you have the sources to search for questionnaire or parameters variables. What are the sources? Nowadays you can have so many sources. For example, what for the measuring scaling of questions, and nowadays you have the current research papers, you can go through it, and Google Scholar is there, and a Likert scale how questions say, for example, how many alternatives will be given under each and every question. That is the scaling. So on the Likert scale, say for example, 4 scale or 5 options scale or 4 options, that you have to, the investigator has to choose according to his problem investigation and all that. Scale handbooks also can refer for deciding the scaling and all that. Next, you have guidelines in preparation of the questionnaire. What are the guidelines that the investigator should keep in mind while preparing the questionnaire and all that? As per the objectives of this study. The study objective was very, very important. No? So I told you in the previous session also, questionnaire, the problem identification, and then research questions are to be framed on the basis of research questions and keywords. Then you are supposed to frame the objectives and all that. So, as per the objectives of the study, the questionnaire are to be designed, because the objectives are to be reflected in the questions. If objectives are different and the questions are different, then what makes sense? There is no sense of it. So that is why objectives, on the basis of objectives, you are supposed to frame the questionnaire so that it will be relevant and all that. So brief and accuracy expression, that we already expert opinions also. So some people, they work in a particular area, they work for from years together. So as an investigator, we have to meet them to get information from them, authentic information and some experiences, so their experience also. If we take as an investigator from them, then what happens? That can also be included in the questionnaire, so that will be very effective, and the questionnaire will become very, very effective and understanding levels of the respondents to be considered. This is most important. At the end of the day, when you design a questionnaire, if you take to that questionnaire to the respondents, what for? To get the information from them. So if they don't understand what is the sense of making that questionnaire, so there is no sense of it. So that is why ultimately, end of the day, the questionnaire should be understandable to the respondents, to the beneficiaries, to the targeted people to whom you are approaching. That is very, very important point. That should be kept. That's what I already submitted before you about that. Understanding levels. Next, avoid open-ended questions. Open-ended, closed-ended questions, I will give you the clear information or elaborate information in the coming slides. And avoid confusion, controversial questions, introduction, and aim of the questionnaire and all that should know by the investigator. Next, characteristics of a questionnaire. What characteristics a questionnaire should have? Facilitates easy calculation of statistics. A question should be framed that should enable the investigator for calculation. When you apply the relevant statistical tools, that it has to be the data has to enable the investigator to analyze it, or it should facilitate the investigator to give appropriate, the easy, the analysis that it should give. So in that manner, you are supposed to frame the questionnaire. Provides that should be one of the characteristics, and you have provides easy preliminary analysis. Easy and preliminary analysis is very important. That should be kept in mind in frame. That is also one of the characteristics. Easy points. These are all. Facilitates efficient tracking of opinion. So that you have to track the opinions of the respondents and targeted people, so that facilitate the investigator to expand it or to analyze it easily. Deals with significant topics. On the basis of topic also, we have already discussed about the deals with the significant topic, questionnaire deal with the significance of the topic. So sometimes what happens, when whoever, the researcher or any researcher, investigator, once he goes through the questionnaire, he can understand what is the depth of the topic and all that. In what opinions the investigator can get. That easily a researcher, an experienced investigator, once he go through it, he can easily understand, he can easily tell the depth of the study also, the depth of the investigation also depends upon the intensity of the questions or relevance of the question, that is, those are framed in the or drafted in the questionnaire. That is one thing. It collects information which cannot be acquired from books. So sometimes, all the information you cannot acquire from the books and journals, the secondary information, but the first-hand information is always first-hand information that you're supposed to analyze. From that only we will give the solutions and all that. So that is why that has to be taken care. And then attractive and clear. So it should be attractive and clear. Attractive means it's not the beautiness and should not be there, but only thing is the concise and brief and the understandable language and all that should be ensured. directions are clear and complete. So you are supposed the question should give a clear direction. So what for you are posing the question, for what is the purpose of that question? That question itself, once you go through the question, it should give a proper direction. Yes, this is the information. From this question, I can acquire the information, so and so information from the respondent. Like that, you should give a clear direction. It should give a clear direction. In such a manner, you are supposed to frame the questionnaire by keeping all these characteristics into mind. The questionnaire you have to prepare. It's not that easy. Questionnaire preparation of the questionnaire is not that easy, because the entire whole, the study, it depends upon the questionnaire. Investigation depends upon the questionnaire only. So it has got a lot of importance, significance. So that is why you need to give a lot of the care while you are framing the questionnaire. Otherwise, what happens? Your study will become useless and waste. If it is not, the related questions are not incorporated, what happens is of no use. So that is why it should be very meticulous care has to be taken should be taken while preparing the framing the questionnaire and all. That is why you are supposed to contact the experts in addition to the searching other sources of sources. In addition to that, you have to discuss with the experts also in the area concerned. And these are all very, very important aspects for investigator point of view while framing the questionnaire. And it should be objective oriented without clues or suggestions. Suggestions, clues should not be given. When you are framing a questionnaire, listen carefully, when you are framing a questionnaire, in the question, when if you are giving a particular, the clue or some suggestion, you yourself is giving, or the question is reflecting the suggestions or the clues, then automatically what the beneficiary or respondent will tell, the same will be he will inform to us. So that is why we have to, our purpose is to get information from the respondent. That is our investigation. When you are going for investigation, you are not supposed to give any clues and all that. So when you give the clues and all that to the respondents or beneficiaries or targeted people, then how do you say that it is an investigation? It is not an investigation, right? You can sit at home and you can also prepare because you are giving the clues. There's no need of giving the clues and all that. You can yourself can cook up sitting at home and all that. So that is not correct. That is not correct. So that is why clues, suggestions should not be incorporated in the question. That is the point. Next, you have it should have questions simple and simple to complex. Even whatever the question that whatever the question you want to pose, even if it is a difficult one, but you have to make the question in a simpler manner. If you can make a question in a simpler manner, what happens? You can get the relevant answers from them without any difficulty. That is important point. Double-barreled questions to avoid. Means what is double-barreled? In one question, a particular question should not be segregated into two questions. In one question means only one question, straight question should be there, right? So in one question there should not be two questions. Two questions should not be incorporated. What is the significance and what is the your idea about it? Like that, some two questions you are not supposed to pose in that question. What is your opinion and how you react? Like that, these type of the questions you are not supposed to. One single question, straight question you are supposed to ask, so that you can get clarity. If you join two questions in one question, two components in one question, if you join, what is the problem? They will forget, they will not answer two components. For example, there are two components. For one component only they will give answer. For another component of the question, in the question, they will not give the answer. So that means you are losing the another part of the question. Only one part of the either first one or the second one only they will answer. In that case, what happens? One side of the either in the beginning or the ending component they will not give you the information, so it will become useless. So that is why double-barrel questions are not advised. Only one question should be there in the question, so that has to be given, so that you will get clear information for that question. That is one thing. Next, you have the factors affecting questionnaire. Questionnaire and its size is very important. That already I discussed with you. The brief and concise and understandable reputation of the funding agency, from where you are submitting. Say for example, you are submitting you are doing for a research some project. Say for example, major research project or minor research projects for UGC or ICSSR or from ministry there are nowadays many agencies are there, funding agencies. So to whom you are submitting the report, that is most important. On the basis of that, you have to take the guidelines of, if it is ministry guidelines will be there. If it is a UGC or ICSSR, guidelines will be different. So you are supposed to take the guidelines of those funding agencies. On the basis of that, that also you should keep in mind, and accordingly you have to frame the questionnaire and all that. Difficulty of the questions posed. So there should not be, that's what I mentioned, submitted before you. What is that? It should not be difficult. It should be easily understandable, relatively significant on the other aspects of the standard of life of human being and all that. So significance is very important. How the question is reflect on the opinions of the, how it is significant, how they can react on that question which you are going to pose on them, and how it is relevant to them, how is it suitable to them, how they react, and how that question, through that question you will get the impact from the response. All those things should be included, should reflect in that question. Relevance, the quality of the question, all that. Appropriate time in administering a question. This is also most important. So what is appropriate time means, for example, you want to go to the grassroots level for collecting opinions from the respondents. Say, for example, if that targeted people are, say, for example, in a rural area or in a semi-urban area, or semi-urban area, say, for example, or rural area, you are going to collect the information. So people, if you go in the morning or in the afternoon, if you go, sometimes what happens, people will not be available. In the rural areas, semi-urban areas, what they do, they will go to work, or either if they work in the fields, they go to field agriculture work, and if they sometimes they will involve in some other works and all that. When they are involving in some other works, if you go there, if you go in that time, you cannot get the information from them. So these are all problems. When the targeted people are available to answer your questions, that is very important. That time you have to choose, and in that time only, if you can approach the people, so that they will give you the correct information they will give you. When they are busy, if you approach them, they don't show interest to answer your question. That is also very important. So if they don't show, and if they give careless answers for your question, then also it is your study is a mere waste. It is of no use, because it is the answers they give are useless, say, for example. So time is very appropriate time you have to choose when you have to approach them to get correct information. Here the point is, that's what I mentioned. Getting correct information is very important for the question. Sometimes the respondents will not give correct information. Reasons are many. What are the reasons? They might be busy. Because of they are busy, they will not give. Or otherwise, if you frame so many questions, 30, 40 questions, if you put it in a questionnaire, and if you approach them, and if you ask them to fill, they don't fill. So these are all certain mindsets will be there. So that also you have to understand. So appropriate time you have to choose, when you have to go, on what time you have to go, and how you have to get the information from them. That all you have to understand, and accordingly you have to act. That is one thing. Elements of questionnaire. Title of the questionnaire and the subjects. Clear, precise, definition, domain, investigation oriented. Your questionnaire must be investigation oriented. It's not that statement-wise statement point of view or descriptive point of view. It is investigative orientation. The question should investigative oriented. Like that, you have to design the questions. Captivating attention. And once you approach the beneficiaries, then the attention of the question should reflect the attention, or attract the attention of the respondent or targeted people. In such a manner, you have to frame the question. This is also most important. If you're asking a question, and the people will look that side and this side. Why they look that side and this side when you are posing a question? Because they don't know, or they are not interested to listen your because it is irrelevant for them. When these are all the things are there, then definitely you cannot get a correct answer from them. This is very important. So general information, description, purpose, confidentiality, honest, these are all should be taken into consideration. Very important. Sometimes people respondents will not give answers. Why? Because they will be fear, or if we give something will happen for us. So that is why better not to give the answers. Like that, they will be in that mindset, because they are in rural areas, say, for example, People are uneducated or less educated people will be there. They will be in fear. What is the use? Some people, they think that if we give answers, what is the use of us? Even if we give answers, if you don't give answers, our fate will not change. Like that, the mindset will be there. So that is why you have to take all those things into consideration as an investigator, and you have to go accordingly. Specific information, questionnaire parts, length of the questionnaire and all that should be very, very important. Quality, design of the questionnaire, that all should be taken into consideration. Good questionnaire, what are the framework? How a questionnaire will become a good questionnaire? What is the framework for that? It should be address the significance of the research work. Every question from top to bottom, all questions should reflect the significance of your present study. Your whatever study that you are, whatever problem that you are carrying out for investigation, it has to be, the study should be reflected in the question, in each and every question, right? So that is why you have to ask questions. First, whenever you approach the respondent, directly, if you ask a question related to problem, they will not answer. So when you approach the respondent, first of all, you should some questions related to their own. So how are you? How things are moving, right? How you are earning? What about your earning? How many children you have? These are all some interactive and interesting questions. So first of all, you have to ask their well-being and all that. So that what happens, they will show interest to give answers of your further questions. You have a set of questions related to your problems. Those questions, first of all, you are not supposed to ask. First, when you approach them, you ask their well-being and all that. What about you ask about their family, you ask about their children and their education, their income levels. You ask them so that they will feel happy, and then you pose the questions related to your topic. Then they will answer you correctly. We require the correct answers. So that is the way of asking questions, right? When you approach the respondents. Next, gather information directly from beneficiary, from not from sources. So it is not the sources. If you get information, it's secondary sources. So directly, that's what I told you. For first-hand information means it is the first-hand information that you get it. So that is one important point that you have to keep in mind. It should be concise and essential data. So the data, what you are, the opinion that you are collecting is concise, brief, and essential data. It should be because you are supposed to analyze it, and you have to give appropriate solutions for that. Recommendations also you are supposed to give at the end of the day. It should be attractive, systematic arrangement, and clear. This already in the previous slides we talked about. Questionnaire objective oriented, and the clear direction should be given. It should not be suggestive character, right? It should be framed in a psychological to specific response sequence. That's what I told you. Just a few seconds back, I told you. What I told you, you are supposed to ask when you approach the respondent for acquiring the certain information related to a particular problem. You are supposed to ask their own questions, their well-being. How are you? How many children you have? What is your earning position? All that. These questions first you have to ask them. Then come to the problem-oriented questions. So that is sequential order is very important. That should be kept in mind when you are approaching the respondents or target people for getting the information from them. It is very important. It should be easy to segregate, tabulate, analyze. So, and it's not the beneficiary point of view or respondent point of view or target people point of view. It is the benefit of from the investigator point of view also. How if you ask a questions, a set of questions, part basis or sequential basis, if you ask the questions, then it will become easy. Or if you prepare the questionnaire in a sequential manner, then what happens, analyzation also is very important. Demographic, say for example, I told you, demographic questions you framed at one particular first, and then a problem related, and then next, like that. If you can ask a descriptive type questions, like that, if you can segregate the questionnaire in a stage wise, then what happens, analyzation will become very, very easy for the after getting information, opinions from the respondents, you are supposed to analyze it. So statistical tools you have to use and you have to analyze it. That will become very, very easy because you are grouping the questions. In the questionnaire itself, we are grouping it. So then it becomes very easy at the time of the analyzation and all that. That is one important point. And should be easy to segregate, tabulation and analysis, interpretation. These all will become easy. Good questionnaires provides the measures or theoretical concepts, also referred as variables, that the common, reliable questions can be prevailed, can be ensured in the questionnaire. So variables, correct variables first in the beginning of the questionnaire only, you have to design the variables, you have to frame the variables. On the basis of that, I told you, you are supposed to frame the questions and all that. Next, you have preliminary information to construct questions. What is the basic information to construct a question or questionnaire? See, for example, the sample population, those whom you are going to ask. So sample population is very important. Sample is different, population is different. Yesterday, Sirisha madam also discussed, I think all of you might have understood the sample and the difference between sample and population. So like that, you have to identify the sample out of the population, and you are going to ask, for them you are going to ask the questions. So a set of population only you are supposed to take from the total population and all that. Then for them, you are supposed to frame the questions. That is one important point that you have to keep in mind to construct when you are constructing the questions and all that. Next, you have method of adoption, to whom asking questions, to whom you have to. That is why a segregated, some targeted people are there now, for those to whom you are, what are the characteristics of those people. So that you have to understand, and accordingly you are supposed to. These are all the the components you should keep in mind as an investigator while framing the questionnaire. That is very important. Questions that you are going to ask the targeted people. The result application with information. This is very important. Ultimately, end of the day, result is very important. If you collect correct information, then you will get result. So that is why time scale also very important. Time situation, some time period is very important. If the time is crossed, the opinions will change. So that is where what time you have to take. What is the problem? That problem prevails up to what time, and before that time only, in the beginning of the problem only, if you can give a correct solution, they will come out and people will feel happy. So that is why time scale is very important. If you take a problem and you are go on investigating it months together, years together, if you go on investigating it, then the problem will be solved automatically, and there is no need your suggestions and solutions. That is very, very important point. Check definition of a problem. Problem understanding for the investigator is very important. We already discussed about it. Obtain relevant secondary data pertaining to problem. It's not all the time the primary data, and your secondary sources also should be taken into consideration. Secondary sources will give you a lot of knowledge because it is already printed sources, and some work has already been done on those areas. So that information, if you can get it and understand, then what happens, the questionnaire design will become further effective and all that, and quality questionnaire will come out if you can take the secondary sources information, and if you can understand it, go through, and if you can understand it, it will be better for designing the effective questionnaire, in the process of effective questionnaire. Next, you have the opinions from subject experts. Subject experts and field experts will be there. You are supposed to take from them. Formulation of specific objectives is very important. Aspect objective oriented. We already told you the question should be objective oriented. Otherwise, every question should reflect the objective, one of the objectives. So then what happens, that give correct result and correct solution at the end of the day. Formulation of hypothesis to be tested. So hypothesis also on the basis of the objectives and all that, on the basis of the review of literature, gaps and all that, we are supposed to frame the hypothesis, and hypothesis also to be tested. So this process can be done on the basis of the effective questionnaire and all that. So hypothesis, objective should be kept in mind before you are designing the questionnaire. And develop questions and list them in the questionnaire orderly. That's what. Orderly, you have to segregate the questionnaire. You're not supposed to mix the questions. Important question is up, and less important is less, or demographic questions in the middle. Like that, it should not be jig-jag. So you have to segregate it in a sequential order, so that you can get the answers for all questions. Sometimes, some people, some respondents, they will not respond. They will get bored and all that if you pose many more questions. And important questions, you will not get the answers. Unnecessary questions means some demographic questions and all that, you get the answer. By the time you come to the problem-oriented question, they will not show interest. So that should not be. So that is why the length of the question is very important. So on the basis of that, all questions have to be answered. Otherwise, the margin of error will may increase. So that problem is there. If it increases, error is increased, what happens is of no use. So error should be to the maximum possible extent, error should be less, minimized, so that your results will be good, effective. That is one thing. Develop questions and list them. Questionnaire benefits. So when you cost effective, easy analysis, all these things. And the questionnaire design, how you have to design the questionnaire means questionnaire design is a multi-stage process that requires attention to many details. Next, you have the questions asked earlier in survey may influence how people respond later questions. Already studies have conducted. So in those studies, what questions are asked and how the respondents are replied for those questions and all that. That also should be taken into consideration for effective design of your questionnaire. And then determine the parameter to be investigated. What are the parameters? What parameters you are supposed to take into consideration? That all depends upon the variables. I told you now, variables also under each and every question. What parameters that you are supposed to keep it. And how you have to get the information from them for those parameters. So the parameters are very important because the information related to your question, related to your topic, depends upon the parameter. Effective parameters have to be identified, that has to be taken into consideration, and the basis of that, the questions have to be framed so that information will come correctly. So the point is here at the end of in the process of investigation, information should be correct. That is very, very important. Finally, information only speaks. Information only can be analyzed and the results will come out effectively. So results must be correct. If you have to accomplish the objectives and the results should be correct, and suitable recommendations should be given, means you have to the information should be correct. First of all, the information that you acquire from them should be authentic. Correct information should be taken. Determine the parameter investigated to be investigated. Select type of questions and wording to use. What type of how meticulously the words are to be used in framing the questions or typing, or select the type of questions. It should be understandable, concise, and there should not be lengthy questions. It should be short and sweet. Like that, it should be framed. Specify information needed. Needed information. What is what is the information is needed from a question? So that should be kept in mind. Accordingly, the question has to be framed. It should be short and sweet, like that. Specify type of interviewing method. That also should be specified. Determine the content of individual question. Respondents. These are all small points only you can easily understand. Respondents, but very important. All these things should be taken into consideration, should be kept in mind while designing the questionnaire. Small points, but should not be neglected at any point here. So that is very important. Respondents' unwillingness, disability, and should not be there. So unwillingness, no respondent should show unwillingness or disinterest in answering the questions. That is very important. Like that, you have to frame. These are all meticulous care you are supposed to take care. Code has to be given, and a problem oriented question, a particular code has to be given, so that what happens, your analysis part, analyzation will, and it will maintain secrecy also when you provide the code and all that. So that is very important. So rephrase the questions to meet the requirements, at least 4 to 5 items to construct. Single dimensional scale, multi-dimensional scale, it is a detailed study. Single dimensional scale, multi-dimensional scale, like that will be there. Accordingly, this all depends upon the nature of the study, nature of the investigation. On the basis of that, you have to decide whether it is single or multi-dimensional and all that. Questionnaire, the objectives are to be balanced. This is very important. Objectives and questions should be balanced. That's what I told you. All the questions should reflect the objectives. There no question should be deviated from the objectives, right? This is very important. Otherwise, if it is deviated, irrelevant to the objectives, of no use. So questionnaire must be uplift, motivate, and encourage the respondents. When you ask a question, people should interestingly should give answer. Like that, you are supposed to frame the question. And then it should be minimized response error. That's what I told you now. Error should be minimized to the maximum possible extent. If you pose irrelevant or ambiguous, confusion questions, they will not come forward to give the answers. So then what happens? Error will be more error will be. Some questions are not answered. Say for example, what happens? It becomes more error will take place and all that, and that study will not be authentic. It will, end of the day. So considerations for a research questionnaire. In continuation to this, define the terminologies, the language that you use, length of the questionnaire that I already told you, length of the how many questions you are supposed to, like minimum of maximum of 20, like that, 15 to 20. It is optimum. If you include 40, 50 questions, and who will answer, how much time it will take for one question, for from one respondent, how much time he has to stand before you to give the answers. The time also should be taken into consideration as an investigator. The whose time, not yours time, not investigator time. It is the time of the respondents, the targeted people, right? That is very important. So that is why it should be taken care meticulously. 3-point or 5-point or 7-point Likert scale. Point in the sense of how many options you are supposed to give under each and every question. So whether 3 alternatives or 5 alternatives or 7 alternatives, how many? So that is very important. Helpful, neither helpful, or helpful, unhelpful, or unhelpful, very much unhelpful. Like these are all options. The sequence also should be given under the question like this, so that immediately you can get the answers. So optimum is say for example 4 to 5 options. If you can keep the scale, then it will be optimum. So for example, strongly agree, slightly agree, neutral, disagree, strongly disagree, very strongly disagree. So these are all almost same, but the intensity is a little bit more or less like that. So these many, if you can include, then it will become very difficult to choose the option, right? So that is why 4 to 5 is four scale is very 4 scale is optimum, or 4 to 5 maximum. Then 5-point scale, if you use the result would fine. That's what 5-point scale. If you can use it for your questions, for each and every question, then your result would become fine. And you have developing a question. How to develop a questions? We'll go a little bit faster. Already it is 7 o'clock now. 7:05. Identify the conceptual, because these are all simple points, but very important points when you are framing the questionnaire. Questionnaire should not be taken as lightly because it is very, very important component of the research process, in the process of research. So that is why, because analysis and interpretations, everything, even the recommendations, suggestions, everything depends on the questionnaire. That is why it should be meticulously, very meticulously should be taken into consideration. The problem that you have identified, that should be kept in mind. On the basis of that, the framing of the questionnaire should be made. Clear, concise, direct problem. There are all so many points in the previous slides. I explained to you what is meant by the concept. Concept means the variables and the concept of the problem, keywords, and all that. Review of the literature available, what to be evaluated, all those things. Characteristics of the concept of the research topic. Key terms to describe the concepts should be taken into consideration. These all should be reflected in the questionnaire. In the questionnaire. Otherwise, the questions are not reflected. These things, what happens? It is irrelevant. It will become automatically irrelevant. That is what my submission is. You have to take meticulous care all these things when you are preparing the questionnaire. Otherwise, the meticulous care, if you can just deviate it, then the questions are of no use, because it is relevant to your topic. It will become relevant to your topic. That is one thing. Next, you have talk to an expert. These are all I discussed in the previous slides. Draft statements you have to prepare. Remove of duplications. Once you prepare the draft, you have to go through it again, review it, and if any duplications are there, that has to be removed. That always review can revise. Review is the chance of revival of or remove the duplications. It enables the removal of duplications and all that. Developing a questionnaire in continuation to the previous one. Questionnaire should, so many points are there, but all these points you cannot avoid. You cannot avoid any of the points. All the points are very important. You have to take compulsorily. You need to take all these meticulous care. We cannot neglect any point of it. Any point mentioned in this. The questionnaire should begin with the most important questions related to the topic. Only one question is to be asked at a time. That's what I did. Not double-barrel questions. I told you, I explained double-barrel questions. One question at a time, one question only. A question should not be included two parts. One part only, one part, one question only, that's all. Otherwise, what happens, I told you, na, one part they will answer, another part they will not answer. So then other part will become empty, and this part only, one part only will be reflected in the answers, opinions. Then it becomes useless of framing that type of question. So proper care related to private sensitive information, private or their private own, their individual private or private information. If any information is there through the question, if they want to, they have to give you need to take a lot of care, because it is privacy. Their privacy, it is a matter of privacy for them. So that is why you need to take when you are collecting information related to their privacy. So the questions are to be posed when you are posing the questions, or when you are framing the questions, their privacy also should be taken into consideration and should be accordingly how to frame it. So develop related questions to the study. Avoid multiple questions in a single statement. That's what I am satisfied with with pay and commission. Pay and commission, you have to tell one thing first. Pay, commission, both you have to. You are not supposed to club it. Of course, you might be satisfied, but both. Have you satisfied with pay and commission? Commission is different, pay is different. So some people says that if they are satisfied with the pay but not satisfied with the commission, how they respond? How they have to respond? Tell me. If they are satisfied with the pay, but they are not satisfied with the commission, but you are clubbed those two in one question. How can they ask you? How can they give you the answer? One part they are satisfied, another part they are not satisfied, but you clubbed both. It is difficult for them to answer. So that type of, the situation should not be reflected in the question. That's most important. Answers are not include such, I don't know, right? Or not applicable to me, will become a missing data. These all will become a missing data and all that. So such type of problem should not be created in the questions. As short as possible, as since the respondents prefer to answer the shorter questionnaire, not lengthy questionnaire, because the time is very important for them. They cannot stand before you hours together, 1 hour, 2 hours, or half an hour, 5 minutes, 10 minutes only they can stand. Even that also very difficult sometimes for some people. So for that, to ask them before you are to pay their concentration for you, it is very difficult. 10 minutes, 15 minutes also they don't want to stand. Okay, sir, you write whatever you want. I cannot because my time is precious. I have to go somewhere. I have to go for work like that. Some people will tell. So that is why this type of the attitude will be there. So that you have to keep in mind, and accordingly, if you prepare, if that is the attitude generally, if you prepare lengthy question, then you can imagine the situation. The people will not come forward to give answers. A pilot study is a prerequisite. This is very, very important. What do you mean by pilot study means? See, the pilot study, when you finalize the questionnaire, listen carefully, all of you, my dear. So when you finalize the questionnaire, you cannot finalize the questionnaire without meeting the grassroots people or beneficiaries. So for example, whatever ideas that you have, you frame it first, right? With the 20 questions, say for example, you frame the 20 questions and go to the respondents and pose those questions with the before the respondents, so that what happens, some questions they feel that irrelevant. If they're irrelevant, what are the irrelevant questions to them? You ask them. So they only will tell you the question should be like this, like that. They will advise you, you can change, right? Like that, you can take the opinions of the question, the change of questionnaire and all that with the beneficiaries, with the target people. So once you approach them and you can get make changes in the question, in the draft, in your draft questionnaires by meeting the respondents, by meeting the targeted people. So if you prepare a questionnaire on your own and without meeting the people, without meeting the target people, if you have prepared, finalized, and you take the questionnaire for collecting opinions, some of the naturally majority of the questions are not related or they don't want to answer, then it is of no use. So that is why before you finalize the questionnaire, you prepare a draft on your own, and that draft you take to the beneficiaries and pose those questions. Then you will come to know what are the questions relevant to them, what are the questions not relevant to them, and some suggestions also they give. Then you write down all those things in a notepad, and then come to home, and then again you reframe it. Once you reframe it, then it will become a final. So that final you take to the respondents and get the opinion. You will get all the questions and answers then. So that this process is what we call pilot study. So that means, what do you mean by pilot study? Pilot study is a study before conducting the investigations, final investigations. You need to check your questionnaire, your draft questionnaire with the beneficiary. That is what we got, that process is called pilot strike. So language, next language check and all that also should be checked in the questionnaire and all that. Next, developing questionnaire in continuation to the Likert scale, measure how strongly a person agrees, disagrees with the statement. Say, for example, examples for a better understanding, I've given you examples also. NGP 2020, descriptive manner. It becomes in a descriptive manner if you ask questions like this, and only open-ended questions are all will come. So if you descriptive manner they have to give answer, it becomes difficult for them to answer. So how can we reduce the poverty in India? So these questions are in descriptive nature, but if you pose these questions in a descriptive manner, I think people will not show interest to give answers and all that. So that is why qualitative in nature, or these are all open-ended. So when you are framing the open-ended questions, should be taken care. A lot of care you have to take, how you have to ask, and even open-ended also, short answer should be given. Like that, you have to frame the question, and you have to pose the question. In that way, they have to give the on the basis of that they give the answers. Closed restricted questionnaire, numerical. Number of alternative replies will be offered. Appropriate answers will be chosen by the respondents. Quantitative in nature, right? These are all. Let's say easy statistical calculation. So statistical calculations are very important after the obtaining the question opinions from them. Statistically, it should be analyzed as I mentioned previously. Easy preliminary analysis can be asked different groups in different times and all that. So this is all very important aspects. I'm going a little bit faster because the time is we are running out of time. Semi-structured mixed questions, partially structured questions. Example, what aims you to use internet sources? So under that assignment is aiming for assignment to use the internet sources, or projects, or enhancement of subject knowledge, or reference purposes. So one of the alternative you have to choose. If any other things that you have to analyze the reasons also should be analyzed. So these are very, very important. The question for semi-structured or mixed questions, partially structured questions will be like this. So this is all on the basis of the problem that you are investigating. On the basis of nature of the problem that you are investigating, it depends. If it is relevant, if it is necessary, then you have to take this type of semi-structured mixed questions, partial structured. But how many questions you have to take, how many questions you are supposed to frame, that also very important. That all depends upon the nature of your investigation topic. Closed from questionnaire. Closed form of questionnaire. Say for example, dichotomous questions. Say for example, two responses such as yes or no. These are all yes or no, only yes or no. The respondent should say either yes or no. So these are dichotomous questions. So say for example, the example I given you, do you like the product of Tata? Yes or no. Some people say yes, some people say no. Right? Similarly, please enter your gender, either male or female, like that. Yoga promotes quality of life. Agree or disagree? These are two, either yes or no, like that. These are dichotomous questions. Types of questionnaire and construction. Multiple choice questions, more than two responses. Example, say for example, what is your qualification 10th class to PhD? So some people 10th class they will take an intermediate. For example, they are degree completed. Say for example, 10th class they take intermediate, they take degree. So multiple choices they have to put the tick. So those type of questions will come under multiple choice questions. More than two, they have to tick it. So cafeteria questions. These are all types of questions I'm talking about. Cafeteria question, respondent to select most closely to their view. That is will come under cafeteria questions. Rank order questions. Rank their responses from most favorable to least favorable. That is the contingency questions. Next type. In continuation to the previous section, say for example, you can understand. Do you smoke? If yes, how many times a day? Yes, no. Once, twice, twice, thrice, four times, more than four, like that. So these are all, the choices under the question. These all will come under contingency questions. Do you have soft skills? If yes, how long? like that. So yes or no, they will give you the one amount. They will choose either yes or no, and in continuation that from last 1 year, last 2 years, 3 years, more than 3 years. So they have to first part they have to tick either yes or no, and second part also one of the options they have to choose it. So like that. Types of questions and construction, and say for example, like questions, reaction of respondents with a particular statement. Say for example, yoga. Examples I given for because for better understanding, you can understand, and I can also go a little bit faster. That's what. So the point is that yoga promotes the quality of life. Is a statement. Strongly agreed, agreed, neither agree or disagree, strongly disagree. So one of the SA, DA, SD, strongly disagree. One they have to answer, they have to take like that. This is what we call Likert questions. And alcohol injurious to health. These are all statements. Leads to various health hazards. Drunkard think effectively. Drinkers speaks truth. These are all hypothetical. We can't believe that this will definitely happen, but hypothetical questions. These are all strongly agree for these questions. Strongly agree, undecided, disagree, strongly disagree. Each and every. For example, alcohol injurious to health is a statement. So for that statement, whether you strongly agree, undecided, or disagree, strongly disagree, that one you have to take it. Similarly, other statements also you have to choose one among them. The you in the sense the respondents or the target people. Next type is bipolar questions. So two extreme answers will be there in this. Two opposite ends. Say for example, efficient will be there, and inefficient also will be there. So this is two extreme answers will be included in this bipolar questions type. Next, matrix questions. It includes multiple questions and identical categories. Okay. Next, you have ensure sequential arrangement, opening, courtesy, and that's what I told you. Arrangement sequence. First of all, you have to ask about the questions related to their well-being, so that they will then later you ask about the problem-oriented, investigation-oriented questions you have to ask. Right? Directly, straight away, you have to ask. You are not supposed to ask the problem-oriented questions. They will not show interest on them. First of all, to use them, to get correct information from them, to use them, you are supposed to ask their demographic questions which are related to them, so that they will come to they will feel happy and they will give you the answers and all that. For problem-oriented questions, they give correct answers. Next, you have early questions. So you have to segregate the questionnaire in these types. Opening questions, what opening questions are in the opening, what questions are to be asked. Early questions, what you have to ask, simple, friendly, close-ended, easy to respond, like that. Middle questions, ask the target questions related to the topic or related to the problem. Latest questions, name, age, and all that. Closing, build relation. Relation building is very important when you're asking, because you are supposed to extract the information from them. So that is why building is very important. Building relationship is very important. So that once you build the relationship, then you can ask the question. They feel happy and they will, whatever questions you ask, they give correct answers. So that is why in a logical order, independent form of questions, you're supposed to keep, and questions to run from general to more specific. So first general questions and then more specific. More specific means related to the problem. And then questions to run from least to more sensitive. These are also very important. These are all, the important meticulous care. The least more sensitive has to be, while you are framing, you are supposed to frame like that. And review the questionnaire. We are almost just ending. We are coming to the ending. Another 5 minutes I'll take maximum. So questionnaire does it operationally defined? That has to be reviewed. Once you frame the format or draft questionnaire, you are supposed to review these points when you are checking the questions that you are framed in the draft. These are all the conditions you have to check. These conditions checking is nothing but review of questionnaire. So questionnaire, does it operationally defined, whether your question is defined operationally or not? Operational means problem-oriented, problem-related. Is it there compiled or not? That you have to check it. Whether questionnaire followed the development of guidelines or not, that you have to check it. If it is not there, slightly you have to change it. Right? Simply that's what I'm telling you. You drafting the questionnaire and directly posing the question, nobody will come forward to answer. So to get information from them, you need to exercise a lot. All these things you have to keep in mind. Otherwise, you cannot expect the people to answer your questions. So that is very important. And time also, I told you, time also, which time you are approaching, that is also very important. reliability, consistency, validity of the data. These are all very important. That on the basis of that, you are supposed to frame each and every question is very important. Whether it's 15 questions, 20 questions, the length of question, whatever you take, but each and every question, in each and every question, these characteristics should be kept in mind. Then you have to frame it. Otherwise, it is of no use. The information that you get will be useless and it is not suitable for analysis. It is not suitable for analysis and result will be zero. If it is result is zero, then it is of time waste, money waste, funds waste, everything waste. So that is why meticulous care is. Pilot study conducted with the question. That's what I told you. You frame a questionnaire, take to the beneficiaries, respondents, pose the questions on them. They will only give you the modifications and what is relevant to them, what is not relevant to them, they will tell. You note it down, all those things, and come back. They redesign them and make changes in them. And then you draft it according to their interests. Then you go and correct the information from there. Then you will get correct information, and that information will definitely give you correct, it will enable correct analysis, and that analysis, from that analysis, you can give correct, concrete solutions and suggestions, recommendations can be given. That is one thing. Next, system of administering questionnaire. By post, you can administer, less expensive. If you can administer through post questionnaire, it is less expensive, not necessary of manual deployment. If a person cannot, there is no need to go to the respondent to get the information. If you post it, if you mail it or post it, they will fill it and they will send it back. Nowadays, mail only. People will not are not posting the questionnaires to get the information. Mail only nowadays. Electronic media we are using a lot. So if you send a questionnaire, they will fill it and they will send it back by mail only. So it is very easy. So it is less expensive. Investigator point of view, it is less expensive and paperless, right? So these are all advantages. By phone, immediate effect, personal touch with respondent. You can talk to by phone and you can ask their all related questions, answers you can get from them by over a phone, and it will be useful. High response rate. Response rate in that case will be more. If you just simply mail it, some people, they will not neglect it to fill it. So response, if you for telephone and ask the questions so that you can fill it by giving the answers from them, you can fill it and you can make use of it. By electronic mode, less expensive, speed communication, no manual deployment. These are all already we discussed. By person, questions posed in detailed, rate of response is high. These are all advantages. Mistakes, last but not the least, mistakes for employee commonly made in the while framing the questionnaire. Generally, these are the mistakes will commit by the investigator, but we should take care without following the mistakes in the questionnaire while framing the questionnaire. Failure to relate with the objectives. Sometimes objectives will be neglected, and the questionnaire will be and the questions that are framing will be unrelated to the topic or unrelated to the objective. So that should be meticulous care has to be examined very carefully, whether it is related to the objectives or any deviations are taking place. That has to be examined. Lack of proper operational constructs. Check a questionnaire with grammatical mistakes are very important. Imagining that the respondents have prior knowledge of the questionnaire terminology and all that is most important. That is why concise and easy language should be maintained. Select a scale before operationalize. What scale? 4 scale or 5 scale that you have to select, choose, and then you have to frame the questionnaire. Inaccuracy questions. If any inaccuracy questions are there, you have to remove them. In review of questionnaire, all these things you will find out, and you can immediately remove them from the draft. Respondents fail to understand. Sometimes respondents fail to unlike that. If you frame the question of no use. So failure to record accurately or completely using a wrong Likert scale, right? The sequence of options sometimes will be wrong. So that should not be done in a sequential order. I told you in the previous slide. In such a manner, your options are to be options are to be written under the question, so that the people, it can be easily, they can choose the option and they can tick it. So lack of the checking originality while copying questions from thesis. Sometimes some people will copy the questions from the thesis and other sources. They will not change. As it is, they will copy it for their investigation. But you have to check Whether you are copying of taking questions from other thesis, other studies, I am not saying that it's wrong. You can take it, but you have to change it according to your study, whether it is related to your study or not. It's not that completely you have to copy it, and whether it is relevance, you have to check it. If it is not relevant, you have to make changes, and you can according to, and you ensure the relevance of the your study, and then accordingly you make changes and incorporate. Lack of relationship between the questions and scaling. So these are all certain, the lacunae that are taking place generally in the while making the questionnaire and all that. So this is about the presentation. I'm sorry I took more time, but of course, one more, another 1 or 2 hours also I can give, but because the time constraints and all that is there. So I'm very much thankful to you once again, all the participants, wonderful participants, and the organizers also. Very effective. They're taking a lot of the care and all that for organizing very effectively. I'm happy to be associated with all of you this evening. Thank you once again. Thank you all. Over to Madam.
Thank you, sir.
Very much.
Thank you, sir, for
Please.
wonderful lecture. And
any questions, any submissions, you are welcome, please.
Yes. Now is the questions and answer session. Any question from the participant side? You can ask now.
Hello.
Yes, ma'am, please.
Hello.
Yeah.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening,
sir. Sir,
please,
thanks
please.
a lot. Thanks a lot. I am Jolly Anju from Arunachal Pradesh.
Yeah.
Okay. Sir, it is really excellent what to say. So many things I have come to know being a research scholar. I am very new in the research process. Okay, but one thing, sir, I am a little bit confused here. That what you have said about the pilot study of the about the questionnaire, no? So what my point is that suppose I am having a sample size of 800. In that sample size, I have to do my research. Now I have to make my tool. That questionnaire I have to make. Okay. Now question is that if I'm thinking about pilot study, so if my target is suppose 20 students, what I have come to know, it maybe my knowledge is not, I am not getting the point exactly. So you have said that suppose 20, that questionnaire we have to do pilot study on the suppose 20 respondent in my hand. It is there. Then the respondent will be giving the opinion. No, where I have to change, what I have to do. Accordingly, I have to make my question. Now, if the target is less, then it is okay. But my 800 sample, how can I? Is it possible for me that I have to go for study once, then activity? So little bit, I am confused how to do the things for making my tool. So kindly, would you please help me?
So what I understood, your lengthy question, what I understood is your sample is, say, for example, 800. And how I have to frame the questionnaire according to the sample. Is it right in simple, in a shorter point of view? Is it right? Am I right, madam? Am I right? Your question is that? Your sample is 800. I repeat once again. Your sample is 800. And on the basis of 800, how do you frame the questionnaire, such a long questionnaire or a short questionnaire? How to approach the respondents to get the answers, and the length of the questionnaire according to the sample? That's what I understood from your question. But the point is here, let me tell you, your question is very good question, no doubt about it. But let me tell you, your questionnaire is not on the basis of the sample. Sample is different and the questionnaire is different. The only thing is, in your questionnaire should reflect the problem, and your questionnaire should reflect the answers or the information to which you have to extract from the respondents. That is very important. On the basis of that, the questionnaire has to be designed, the questions are to be incorporated. It's not that the sample is 800, maybe 900,000 or 400, 300, doesn't matter. It is not the matter of the number of the sample size and all that. The only thing is the relevance of the questions you have to check. And the relevance of the questions, how do you check? The relevance of the questions can only be checked with the help of the title, the nature of your investigation. On the basis of that, the variables I told you, the variables are to be chosen, keywords are to be chosen. On the basis of variables and independent variables, dependent variables, you have to identify. And on the basis of that, these are all the inputs. What are the inputs? Variables are the inputs, dependent variables, independent variables, the keywords. These are all very important inputs for framing the question. In framing the questions, these things are to be taken care. Then only your questions will become related, relevant. And at the same time, the questions are to be restricted to the problem or to your study area. That is why restricted to the study area means what are the questions that you are supposed to ask. You have to frame it first of all. It should not be too many. It should not be too lengthy questionnaire. Say that's what I'm doing. The optimum is say 15 to 20 questions. At the most 25. Not more than that. Even 25 also very difficult. People will not show interest to give answers. So that is why all these considerations and characteristics, whatever I submitted before you, all these things should be taken into consideration meticulously, and each and every question is to be taken care meticulously. It's not that some questions, only problem related questions are to be taken meticulous, other things are likely, not like that. All questions are to be taken very meticulously and should be framed accordingly, so that your answers, the answer that you extract will become very, very relevant, and your analysis then will become perfect, and you can then only you can give correct, the inferences or findings or suggestions, recommendations, concrete suggestions, recommended can be offered. That's what. Thank you very much. Excellent question that you asked, madam.
Next question.
And one more thing you have asked, madam, I forgotten. Pilot study. Pilot study is very important. You cannot finalize one thing before somebody asks the question. This also let me clear. I already told in the slides. Pilot study is very important. To finalize the pilot study is for meant for what purpose? To finalize the questionnaire. So if you want to finalize the questionnaire on your own, you cannot finalize unless you meet the people who are associated with the problem or who are associated with encountering the situations over there at the grassroots level. Unless you meet them, you cannot finalize. You cannot finalize the the questionnaire and all that. So that is why whatever questions you framed, you go to them and you discuss with them, and then finalize with their suggestions and all that, modifications take from them. Because some questions are relevant, some questions are not relevant to them. How do you know that? If you approach them, you will know it. So that is why you approach them, you get the information accordingly, you modify it, and finally you design the questionnaire, and then finally you get the information from them, so that then you will get all answers. All answers you will get, all information you will get from them, and finally your study also will become accuracy, authentic, and analysis part also will become authentic, and you can do concrete solutions, suggestions, and all that. Thank you very much.
Any other questions?
If you want to send any queries, my mail ID also there, or otherwise my number also I have posted here. I am ready to help to all of you. You can also ask me, you can free to consult me, and I will ready to help either by mail or by phone. If you are research scholars, I'm ready to help to all of you. It is my pleasure to give you anytime. You can call me and you feel free to ask me for any queries and all that. Not only the questionnaire and review of literature.
Thank you.
On any aspect. Thank you very much.
Hello.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, sir. So I think, sir, no more question from the participants.
Yeah, please,
side. Yes,
please.
sir.
Thanks a lot.
Thank
Once
you,
again
sir.
to all the
Thank you,
participants
sir.
and the
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you very
sir.
much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
And tomorrow session will be at 6 p.m. and please be on time. Thank you very much.
Ma'am,
Bye.
excuse me.
Yes,
I want to ask.
Yes, you can ask.
Ma'am, will you please, are you going to send the recorded lectures, videos of all these?
Yeah. Sure, we will send, surely.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Welcome.
Because somehow today I was unable to have in a consistency in FDP. I keep on just
We
due
will
to some
send.
reason.
We will send you all the lecture links. All lecture
Thank you.
from day one.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you.
Please share, madam, all the links,
Yes, sir.
day-wise links,
Yes, sir.
so that it will be helpful
Day
for
wise,
all
I
the
will
participants.
share, sir.
Yeah, please.
Sure, sir. Thank you so much for your kind
Thank you,
cooperation.
madam. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, sir.